Download the My Hingham app today and report issues and get information on town government with ease. Available on the App Store and Google Play. You can submit service requests or gain information with just a few taps on your phone. Using the My Hingham app puts immediate access to town resources in the palm of your hand, including calendars of meetings and events, agendas for upcoming meetings, building permit filing options, online bill payment options, and info about our boards, committees, departments, and services. For more information, please scan the QR code on your screen.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Select Board on July 28th at 5:03 p.m. This meeting is being held in person and/or remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 and all other applicable laws temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the Town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. Is anyone else recording the meeting this evening? I don't see anyone. I state for the record, participating this evening, myself, Liz Klein, Julie Straley, and Bill Ramsey. And everyone's remote today. First thing on the agenda is discussion and potential vote regarding scheduling of the 2026 special town meeting for October 29th, 2026.
I think that's going to be you, Katie.
So we discussed last week the potential schedule for special town meeting. I recirculated a new calendar for this week's meeting. The recommendation is that the board consider a special town meeting on Thursday, October 29th. That will allow for the school building committee and HMLP to complete their processes internally with AdCom and with Select Board. It will also allow the school building committee to get a response back from the MSBA on the two likely votes that we're looking for approval on for South and PRS ruse, and then have a special town meeting on the 29th and allow us to use the November 3rd state election date as a opportunity to do both a local and state ballot option on the potential debt exclusion questions. So the recommendation for a special town meeting is Thursday, October 29th.
Okay, thank you, Katie. And I know you reviewed this last week as well. And thank you for updating the calendar. I think that's a really helpful visual and timeline for the public. So after this meeting, assuming we make a decision tonight, I would like to put that on the website for people to have that handy. I know there's been a lot of discussion about this item, and I appreciate the patience and hard work of everyone working with the school building committee, HMLP, town clerk. It's a lot of moving parts and coordination, so thank you. I am comfortable with the date, but I will turn it to my colleagues to see if they have any questions. Julie, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't have any questions. I'm comfortable with the date, and I think that should give enough time for the appropriate committees to review these articles and present the information and fully weigh the articles. So I'm comfortable with that date. Thank you.
Great. Bill?
Thank you. I know we discussed this pretty good detail last week as well. Two follow-up questions from our last meeting. Tom, did you get a chance to talk to the moderator? I know it's a Thursday night. I guess the assumption would be we're going to get this all done in one night, right? But what were his thoughts on doing it on a Thursday night with the potential articles?
Yeah, he absolutely believed that we would be able to get through the meeting for potential articles, for likely articles, and in one night. He didn't seem to think that that would be a problem. We then went on to say, might be some interesting costumes if we ended up on Friday night before Halloween, but we don't expect that to happen. Thursday, we'll be able to get done Thursday. He was very confident.
And any concerns from the town clerk running and having to run a special town meeting on the 29th, and then obviously a pretty big election on the 3rd?
Yeah, well, she'll be on here in a few minutes, but yes, she certainly has concerns. She's working through it. She's extremely professional and is confident that she and her team will get through it, as I am. We've met with her several times on this, and those dates are known, and I believe she believes that we can make this work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from members of the public? I know the town clerk is on if Carol wants to make any comment.
I see no hands.
Okay. All right, if Bill and Julie are comfortable moving forward, I'm ready to take a motion.
Ready to go. And I would make a motion to call a special town meeting to be held on Thursday, October 29, 2026 at 7 p.m. at Hingham High School, pursuant to Town of Hingham General Bylaws, Article 2, Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 9.
Second.
Roll call vote. Julie?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So special town meeting is October 29th. Excellent. Thank you all for all the work on that. Next on the agenda is the discussion and potential vote regarding opening warrant and insertion of select board warrant articles for Plymouth River Elementary School roof, South Elementary School roof, high school roof and HVAC design, and HMLP capital improvements into the warrant, and to close the warrant for the 2026 special town meeting. So I know Angela from the school building committee is traveling this evening. I believe Superintendent Roberts is on for questions, but Katie, maybe you can lead the discussion. Katie Dugan.
Sure, that's great. I'm happy to sort of provide a recap of the warrant articles that are proposed for a special town meeting. There are 3 warrant articles that are being brought forward by the 2025 School Building Committee that they have voted for select board's consideration at their July 14th meeting. Their request is to insert these on the warrant for the October 29th, 2026 special town meeting. The 3 articles relate, as I spoke to last week, to the 3 projects that the schools were accepted into with the accelerated repair program with the MSBA. The first 2 for Plymouth River and for South are 2 replacement roofs for both of those buildings. The plan is to submit the design and feasibility packages that were funded at annual town meeting 2025 to the MSBA at the end of August. When that happens, that starts a clock with the MSBA for their review. They will give approval at the end of October. Once we have the MSBA approval for the schematic designs, we already know what the reimbursement rate is, which is 36.89%. in terms of the grant for eligible expenses. Once they vote to approve the Plymouth River and the South roof replacement projects at the end of October, we will have a period of time, 90 days, from which the town needs to vote to authorize to raise, appropriate, borrow the sufficient funds for the full cost of the project. The warrant article for Plymouth River does exactly that. The language that is in the packet for the select board is standard MSBA language that makes the request of the town to raise and vote the full amount for the replacement project. It does note that there is the 36.89% reimbursement that will be coming on eligible receipts from the MSBA. So that's one of the articles. The second article is a mirror of that, but for the South South Elementary School and the roof replacement there. Again, the warrant article that would be placed on the article would be placed on the warrant would again raise and appropriate or borrow the full amount for the project, net of any of the reimbursable expenses from the MSBA. The third article that the school building committee has brought forward is a small modification to the design, schematic design and feasibility authorization from annual town meeting 2025. At annual town meeting 2025, the design and feasibility funds of $3.3 million were authorized. That authorization allowed the school building committee to use those funds only through schematic design. What the article that is being requested expands that scope further. It doesn't request any new funds, but allows them to use that $3.3 million in borrowing authorization to continue past schematic design into pre-construction services all the way through potentially early bid packages. And as I described last week, that allows them to basically productively use the time from January until annual town meeting to continue the design process. After they submit the schematic design packages to the MSBA at the end of December, so that when and if the town approves the full project at annual town meeting 2027, they will be in a position to capitalize on what are the narrow windows of time during the summer when they can actually do the construction work at the high school. So that would allow them to basically use summer 2027 as kind of pre-construction and then productively use the following summer 2028 to complete the project. So 3 articles from the school building committee, 2 are for full authorizations for the roof replacement at PRS and South, the third being the expansion of the scope for the schematic design for the high school. At this point, maybe we pause and see if there's anything else that Katie wants to recommend. What I would say tonight is that perhaps there is an opportunity for the select board to consider putting on South and the scope revision for the high school. We have an opportunity later if we'd like to open the warrant again at the end of August once they've worked through 1 or 2 small issues as it relates to PRS on the schematic design and place that on. But we wanted to bring all 3 forward because that is what we plan on implementing. But we may need a little bit more time as it relates to PRS just to make sure that the schematic design is going to be solid and ready to submit at the end of August.
Great, thank you, Katie.
So I don't know if Katie Roberts can add anything to that at this point.
No, I just wanted to express my appreciation to the 2025 School Building Committee. So what we're facing are 2 roofs with a known age of around 30 years, both South School and the high school. And Plymouth River School, much of the roof is actually original to the building. And so, again, just want to convey again the urgency of those 3 projects. And the high school boiler and HVAC system is similarly reaching that 30-year, very much at end of life timeframe. So appreciate all of the work of the 2025 School Building Committee, and also wanted to give a shout out to Carol Falvey. I know and the select board, what a huge lift it is to do a special town meeting. And we feel very supported by all of our partners in bringing forth the needs of the schools. And Angela Thandinga is also on, again, her leadership and her team on the school building committee has done a great job with some very complex projects.
Excellent. Yes, they are complex and much needed. So thank you to everyone that's been working so hard on this. Other questions or comments? Julie, did you have any questions?
No, I think that's good that we can get started on adding a couple of the warrant articles tonight and South Elementary and the scope change for the high school roof project and get started on that. And I know I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Bill?
Thanks, Liz. So, Katie, you said the roofs at the high school and South are 30 years old.
They're approaching 30 years old and are very much at the end of their useful life. So despite the deferred maintenance by the team, 30 years is considered end of life for a school roof. And even in the work that Angela and her team are doing, some of the decisions they've been making with regard to a roof replacement, roof replacements basically come in 20, 25, or 30-year chunks, but we have not heard a roof offering that is really beyond those 30 years. So the roofs are very much in need. And just want to stress again, the Plymouth River roof is even older. So some of that roof is original to the building. And so that roof is particularly complex. It's a slate roof, much of it original to the building. And again, despite diligent efforts on deferred maintenance, we just can't get it past its expected life. It's well past that expected life.
And remind me, what year was Plymouth River built? 70s?
Plymouth River School was built in 1968. So you're close, Bill. Yep, almost the 70s. So 1968. So the building itself is about 60 years old. So again, portions of that roof are actually 60 years old. But because we have made significant updates and upgrades to that building, so you'll recall back in 2010, there were some pretty significant interior renovations done on the building. And most recently, we had an MSBA grant funded project to replace all the windows and doors in that building. So despite being 60 years old, it feels new due to those investments in the structure. And again, the one that surprised me is South School is actually nearly 80 years old. So we had a renovation there. So the South School was opened in 1948. Roughly 30 years ago, we had a major expansion and renovation of that building, at which time the entire roof was replaced. And so again, we're at that 30-year mark. So time goes by fast.
And one last question, Katie. I know that what we're hearing is that South's ready to go. I agree with Julie that the ones that are ready to go tonight, maybe we move them forward and let the advisory committee start digging in, and we hold maybe on the other ones. When does the building committee anticipate having all it needs to make a recommendation on PRS?
I'll defer to Angela on that one. So I know that August 11th is a big date for the committee, and so can let Angela share that anticipated timeline.
Yeah, the design team, we have 2 meetings coming up with the school building committee. One will be the August 11th, and that's when the design team comes back to us with all of the estimates on South, and as well as some options for us to consider on Plymouth River. And so we'll be able to see those for the first time on August 11th. And then we meet again on August 18th to approve the path forward for that schematic design submission. Or on the 18th, if there's any concerns with Plymouth River and we don't feel that we have what we need to be able to approve that submission or approve what goes into that submission, then we'd be able to come back, or we'd be able to communicate that and share if there's any adjustments or anything that we would need to consider.
Great. And just a follow-up to that question would be, Tom, since we just set the date of the special, and I'm anticipating we're setting the date of the ballot vote, when would a final decision need to be made on Plymouth River if we do wait tonight?
Yeah, we would comfortably need to get the ballot questions in by mid-September, but I would anticipate being able to do that on August 25th, especially if the building committee comes back with their date, and that's easily a couple of weeks cushion in case something goes wrong.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
that. Yep.
Excellent. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
If I could just add that, again, appreciate the creativity of doing a local ballot to buy us a bit more time on this, but do want to stress that it's all systems go. The last thing we want to do is lose another winter. So we're also mindful of the balance of wanting to get this right, but also mindful of the need for extraordinary repairs if we have another tough winter or two. So again, the team is full steam ahead on all the projects, but are grateful for the creative thinking and the extra time offered by the local ballot.
Excellent, great point. I do think it makes sense to move forward with South and the high school articles to Bill's point, so AgCom can start doing their work. And I think we'll feel a little more comfortable understanding the scope of PRS after that August 11th meeting. And as Tom mentioned, the select board is planning to meet August 25th. So we should have that discussion at that meeting, I would expect. Are there other questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll open it up to members of the public.
I just want to double check that we're going to have an opportunity to discuss the HMLP article or get an overview tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so we'll do that before we take the vote, because that's all combined. Tom, correct, in the vote language?
Yeah, you can do that. Yep.
Okay, so I'll just open it up for questions or comments on the school building articles, and then we'll move on.
No questions online.
Okay. All right, so let's so part of this agenda item is also HMLP capital improvements. We have Laura Burns and Tom Morahan on.
While we're bringing them up, just to kind of recap on the HMLP capital improvements article, this was voted on by the Hingham Light Board on last week to recommend the insertion for special town meeting 2026. The article language is identical to the article language that was proposed at annual town meeting. But both Laura and Tom are here tonight to kind of update the board on where they are with progress on some of the details that were needed for both the revised comment and the motion related to this, so that it would be ready for a special town meeting in the fall. But the article language is identical to annual town meeting and has been approved again by the Hingham Light Board for the select board's consideration.
Excellent, thank you, Katie. Laura, do you want to give a high-level view of the article and kind of what the next steps are?
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the school building committee for creating the opportunity at a fall town meeting to bring this article back before the public. Can I show? I got a few slides because there's a lot of numbers. So is that all right if I share my slides?
You should be able to do so.
Okay. I should be able to do so. So let me just move this so I can play. Okay, can you see that? Are we good? Okay.
Yes.
So thank you very much for your time tonight. The article for our transmission project was pulled from the town meeting warrant at the request of the Light Board by the Select Board. Thank you. Because there was general agreement that there could be more clarity about the impact on electric rates for this project than we were able to bring to town meeting at that time. And the reason for that is that we were actually in the middle of doing our cost of service study, which we do every 3 years, which tells us what we will need in revenue in order to cover all of our costs. And of course, the cost of service study was to include costs related to this project so that we could see what the impact on rates would be. So the cost of service study has been completed, and we have had one meeting with the consultants about it. We expect to have at least 2 more next week and the week after, but I believe we can have this process finished by August 11th. The good news is that the cost of the project has come down since April. So just to review, this project has 3 pieces: the transmission line itself underground, the substation at the Hingham transfer station, and excuse me, the new tap station in Weymouth where it will connect into the grid. So this is the current project estimate. When last we saw it in April, the total project estimate was $110 million. And these are the latest estimates. Color me surprised. I did not expect to have a significant reduction in cost. But this is what it looks like right now. And these three pieces are funded by two different mechanisms. So here are the two chunks, the transmission line and the second substation. Those are the pieces of the project that we will anticipate using bonding revenue for and our depreciation fund. The tap station, we don't excuse me, we don't begin paying on the tap station until it is completed. It belongs to Eversource, but we will pay them for the building of the tap station over 40 years, beginning when the tap station comes online, which would be 2029 if this project is approved at the fall town meeting. And again, the total cost is 97 million. So hang on a second. So this shows the two different funding mechanisms. The transmission line and the second substation coming to 47.2 million. When we did the cost of service study, we put bond revenue of $30 million into our studies, that we're going to bond for $30 million. We have right now $30 million in our depreciation fund, which we have been socking money away over the last 5 years or so, at a fairly rapid clip for the purpose of buying down the bond so that we don't have to bond as much as we would have to if we did not have this large depreciation fund. Excuse me. So the plan would be that when we begin construction, we would begin by using our depreciation fund, and we can then delay using bond funding as we see how things go. And obviously, these estimates, they change all the time. So we can't know for certain that it won't go up again. We have to plan for some kind of margin of error, some kind of contingency funding in case they change again in the wrong direction. But right now, we would be able to use bond revenue of 30 million and depreciation fund of 20 million to reach 50 million for the funding of this piece of it. It's possible that as we go forward using the depreciation fund, we'll discover that we can bond even less. And the goal would be not to bond anything more than we need to. Excuse me. So the tap station down at the bottom there, 50 million. And the idea is that that would be paid for, excuse me, out of the rates. And we also have a rate stabilization fund that we can use if need be to smooth out any large bumps in rates that would be caused by the tap station coming online. This is one area where we still have questions to work out with our consultants, and we'll be doing that hopefully next Tuesday. At the end of our last meeting, it was really unclear whether or not having the tap station come online in 2 years was going to require a larger rate increase than they had originally projected. They gave us a projection of rate increases that would be necessary to cover everything that we do in the light plant, plus this project. One rate increase in January of 2027 and another one in January 28. But we were unclear how the tap station coming online fit in with that, and not certain that we understood exactly how much was going to be needed in terms of rate increases. So we don't have that answer yet. We hope to get into detail with them on Tuesday. So these are the questions remaining. What is the bonding request of town meeting? Because we did already send back the exact same article, but the bonding request was for $70 million authorization. The general manager and I are not thinking that we need authorization for $70 million for a $50 million project for which we have tens of millions of dollars of depreciation funds to contribute. So we anticipate going back to my board next week and having a discussion about lowering the request for bonding. It could, and there will be a significant lowering. Could be in the area of 40 to $50 million ask as opposed to $70 million ask. But again, I just want to caution that I haven't even brought this concern to my board yet. So there's a discussion that has to happen here, but that's definitely the direction that we would be going with that. So if we do, we will take another vote on the warrant article, exactly the same, but with a different funding ask. And then the other question we have to resolve is the one that I just mentioned about what is the impact on rates of funding the tap station? Is the tap station cost included in those two rate increases that they designed for us, or is it extra? We weren't clear on that at the end of our last meeting. So we hope to get clarity on these two items, and I think those are the two things that we need to know before we would be ready to go ahead and go to town meeting. So
Excellent.
if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Laura. So just to clarify, the rate study should be completed and will be voted on by the light board next week?
So it's the rate study is complete. We are having conversations with the consultants to see if we're going to adopt the recommendations of the rate study.
Okay.
And I hope that we will be completed with that by next week. But if we're not, because we only have an hour next week because of the time constraints of members of the board, we have another meeting scheduled for August 11th. And I think that is the latest at which we would end up resolving all of these things.
Okay, excellent. And you expect to also know the amount that would be borrowed
Yes.
as a result of that? Okay.
Yep.
So obviously, as you mentioned, that changes the scope of the article and the work that AdCom's doing going forward. Because the way we have it written right now, as you mentioned, is the 70 million. So, okay, thank you for that. That sounds like good news. So fingers
It is
crossed
good news.
trends that way.
Yeah.
Julie, any questions or comments?
My comment is that I'm glad that there's a little bit more runway for you to resolve these questions in the coming weeks. So that's good. And the only question I had was the rate stabilization fund. Is that something that has already previously been created?
Yes.
And is that something that you've been able to deploy in the past?
It has not been deployed for any purpose since I've been on the board. Tom, I don't know if you know the last time that the rate stabilization fund was called on.
I believe just prior to my arrival, maybe 2017, they might have taken some out of that rate stabilization fund.
Okay.
But we have not done the in-depth examination of how much is available and what that would look like until we understand what the impact of that tap station is on rates. Then we'll take a look at what we have to smooth out the bump if there is one.
Okay, good. All right. You just answered my follow-up question. So thank you. I'm all set.
Great. Bill?
Just two comments. Thanks, Laura and Tom, for the presentation. Great to see that the overall cost of the project has come down. That's fantastic news. And I appreciate you running to ground what the impact will be on rates, because I know a lot of people are asking about that. So I think that's going to be some important information going forward with this article. But appreciate what you're doing, Laura and Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Yes, thank you. Any questions or comments from members of the public on the HMLP article?
I see no hands.
Okay.
I'll just mention that Elaine Cusker is our advisory committee liaison, and she's on this like white on rice. She is really staying with us through the whole process and helping us come to a resolution. I really appreciate her work very much.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for saying that. So does it make sense to wait on this article as well, given that we'll have some more information after August 11th?
I would recommend that, yeah.
Yeah, okay, and that doesn't hold up anything in terms of your process if we wait. Okay. Bill and Julie, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, yes, 100%. We shouldn't move anything. We shouldn't move anything forward to the advisory committee until we have those questions resolved. So as we talked about maybe at the beginning, Julie's recommendation, we can move the ones that are ready to go, and then we hold the ones that aren't until we get that information.
Agreed. Okay, so that would be South and the high school. And Tom, we talked about this earlier, but just to reconfirm that we'll be opening the warrant, placing those two articles, closing the warrant, but then at a future meeting, we will reopen the warrant and add potentially the other two articles.
That's
correct? And we have
That's
enough time to do that.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Go ahead, Bill.
And just to be clear for participants that joined late, it's the scope of the article at the high school. It's not the article for the roof, all right? So we're just moving the scope of the article forward, which is not gonna impact anybody's taxes.
Exactly. Yes, thanks for mentioning that. So it's not an appropriation of any funds.
Right.
It's literally a scope change. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, I don't see any. I'm ready to take a motion.
I'll make a motion to open the warrant for the special town meeting and insert the following articles. Article B, to see if the town of Hingham will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds a sufficient sum of money to be expended under the direction of the 2025 School Building Committee for the roof system replacement, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, the project at the South Elementary School located at 831 Main Street, Hingham, Massachusetts, which proposed repair project would materially extend the useful life of the school and preserve an asset that otherwise is capable of supporting the required educational program, and for which the town may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA. The town acknowledges that the town's MSBA grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need, as determined by the MSBA, and any project costs the town incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the town. Any grant that the town may receive from the MSBA for the project shall not exceed the lesser 36 and 89/100%, so 36.89% of eligible approved project costs as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA or act on anything related thereto, inserted at the request of the 2025 School Building Committee. And Article C, will the town vote to amend the appropriation of $3,310,000 previously approved under Article 34 of the Town of Hingham 2025 Annual Town Meeting to expand the purpose for which said appropriation and any funds borrowed thereunder may be expended as follows. Said appropriation may be expended for a feasibility study, schematic design, detailed design, architectural, engineering, owner's project management, and other pre-construction services related thereto, and up to and including preparation of construction documents and early bid packages for a potential roof replacement, heat pump conversion project, or other HVAC system repairs or replacement, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto at Hingham High School, 17 Union Street, Hingham, Massachusetts, or act on anything relating thereto, inserted at the request of the 2025 School Building Committee, and to close the warrant for the special town meeting on Tuesday, July 28th, 2026, and to direct the town administrator to forward copies of the articles to the advisory committee and to post them on the town's website within 10 days of this vote under Town of Hingham General Bylaws, Article 2, and all other applicable laws.
I'm just going to amend that vote language to close the warrant for the special town meeting on October 29th, 2026, and to direct the town administrator to forward copies of the articles to the advisory committee and to post them on the town's website within 10 days of this vote under Town of Hingham General Bylaws, Article 2, and all other applicable laws.
Thank you.
I would second the amended motion.
Roll call vote. Julie?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an I as well. Thank you, Julie. That was a long one with
Oh.
today's date in it. So thank you.
So,
Hold on. I'm
I know.
sorry. Liz, I know you and I spoke about this earlier. I think I was confused when we spoke earlier. This is to close the warrant for the special town meeting, but we're closing the warrant on.
Oh, today.
Yeah, not the special town meeting on. The sentence
Okay.
reads a little funky.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So we probably ought to just remake that last
Amend
point.
again. Okay. To
Amend
close.
again back to the July 28th.
Okay. Close the warrant for the special town meeting today, July 28th, 2026, and to direct the town administrator to forward copies of the articles to the advisory committee and to post them on the town's website within 10 days of this vote under Town of Hingham General Bylaws, Article 2, and all other applicable laws. Is there a second on that amended language?
Second.
Roll call vote. Julie?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an I as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is discussion and potential vote to include ballot questions on the upcoming election on November 3rd, 2026. I believe we have Town Clerk Carol Falvey with us.
Oh, sorry. We were muted.
Okay, sorry. Just to preview, Carol is joining us. We're using tonight as an update on what the ballot, local ballot would be for the November 3rd election. Carol can give some updates as to how we plan to utilize that November 3rd date to do, as I alluded to previously, include potentially two debt exclusion ballot questions, one for PRS and South, a second one for South, assuming both projects move forward with the MSBA at the end of October. But we don't need to vote that tonight because, as we've discussed, we have a little bit more time because we're using a local ballot option. Previously discussed, we had talked about using a combined local and state, which would have required us to submit much earlier, actually next week. But because we're bifurcating and having a state and a separate local ballot, we have time through mid-September, as Tom alluded to be able to make the decision and vote those ballot questions specifically for the local election. So with that, I'll hand it over to Carol to sort of add any bells and whistles that I missed.
Great. Thanks, Katie.
Hi. So
Hi.
the August 5th deadline seemed to be a fatal flaw in our plan. So we did a little research and realized we could do a dual election on November 3rd. And so that's what we're pursuing. It's will take a lot of organization. There'll be a state ballot, which will most likely be at least 2 pages. And then we'll have our separate local ballot, which will be separate. And we are going to color code things, and we fortunately have enough poll pads, so you have to have separate check-ins. Not everybody will utilize voting in both elections. One will pick one or the other, and so we're looking at a few options to try to streamline the process and make sure that things run smoothly and efficiently as people go through the lines with 2 separate ballots. So Eileen, I asked her, she says she only did it once in the 20 plus years she was here, but other towns have done it. I've talked to our vendor, had a long conversation this morning and got some good recommendations from them as well. So we're ready to rock and roll.
Excellent. Thank you, Carol. To you and your team. I know this is a lot of work and logistics, but I'm very confident that you will run a smooth and seamless election. I think it's a great creative option for people. I think there's going to be so many questions on the state ballot. I think our local ballot questions might get lost, and it's nice not to have people have to come back again to vote. So everything can be done on that same date.
I agree. I just think you'll have voter fatigue. You're running into the holidays, and I think that having the election that day is. I've said this from the beginning. Trying to get it on the state ballot is the right timing. So this maybe will work out even better.
Yes. Well, thank you for all your efforts.
My pleasure.
Julie, questions, comments?
Question about you'll be able to design the second local ballot that you mentioned color coding. You'll be able to make it sort of stand out so it's not exactly looking like the state ballot.
I believe it'll be a different size, so that'll be the biggest. The ballots are typically one color, and we will also have to offer early voting for people and vote by mail for our local option. So those are typically the same colors, but it'll be very similar to when we have a local election in terms of the size of the ballot and the colors on that. But in terms of the coloring I was referring to was when you check in, every voter gets a receipt. So we'll have different color receipts for people to just keep things straight. And when you put the ballot through the tabulator at the end, those will be somehow color coded as well. So people will know that this is the state ballot, this color, and the town one will have a big splash of color on it. So people visually will know where to go.
Okay. And then just to confirm that any ballot questions for the local election part of November 3rd would be for the school roof projects. It would not be for HMLP or the scope change article. So it would be one or two ballot questions.
That's up to the select board will vote on what questions are put on the ballot.
Right. Okay. And then my other question is your poll workers, it's going to be a lot of extra training probably to do this two ballot election. So I just wanted to recognize that's going to be more work for you and your team, and as a former poll worker myself, it's a long
we hated
night.
To lose you, Julie.
Yeah. So it's a long day, and then at the end you're sorting through all the ballots, but I have faith because I always found that that process at the end of the night is just really well organized. So but I just want to acknowledge that it is extra work for everybody, but at least it's all an election on one night versus having to do a separate local election on a different date. So
we'll have to have more people that will be working it, and we'll just take our time and just stick with the plan and take it it'll be tallying one at a time, one election at a time, obviously. And just like for the primary, we have two sets of ballots for the primary. You have the Democratic and Republican ballots. And so you just sort them. In that case, you'll sort your ballots and then you tally one party's results and then the other party's results. So it'll be just like that, only on a bigger scale.
And then because it's a Tuesday election, can you just reconfirm that it would be a longer election day versus having the local election? The hours would be longer.
Because we're piggybacking on a state election. The state election is from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. So we would follow the same format. We're not going to shut the door at and I believe when we changed the bylaw last year, it only applied to Saturday elections and not to Tuesday elections. So no, we would be piggybacking and having uniform hours.
Great.
Okay. Thanks, Carol.
Yep.
Bill?
Yeah, Carol, thank you for the presentation. And my question was going to be, have we ever done this before? So it's good to know that we have, and it was successful. After the voter fills out the two ballots, do both ballots go into the same machine at the conclusion of the voting, or will you have a machine for the state ballot and one for the local ballot?
So they can go into the same machine. They can be programmed, but we're exploring possibly bringing in a second set of tabulators to have a separate process, one for the state election and one for the Hingham election, which would be my choice to do. So we're in the process of fleshing that out now.
Great. And I think it's good to have the two separate ballots. I read recently that the legislature just approved I think maybe 9 ballot questions for
Yes,
the state ballot. So
right.
if we added these two to that ballot, that would be very confusing for people. So I think having the two separated makes it easier for voters to know what they're voting on. So thank you.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of, I mean, I think we all, you know, your office, my office will have, there'll be a lot of education to have people understand ahead of time what the process will be so that they don't get there and then they're totally flummoxed by what they're faced with. So that's going to be, after we get through the primary, that will be our next goal, to work on that.
Great. And Carol, you mentioned voting by mail and early voting. Can you just explain that for people?
So the same process would apply. So for the state election, we have vote by mail for the November. And since we'll have our own separate ballot, and for people that have opted to vote by mail for all elections, our new election would fall under that umbrella. So we would be sending separate ballots, separate in a larger mailing container. People have to pay attention and read the instructions if they mail those ballots back. They can't put them together in one envelope. Everything will be separate, and again, they'll have different colors on them. So it's people have to just take their time. Please, please, please read what we send out, and then we'll be fine.
Excellent. So I know the cards to opt into voting by mail already went out. So again, if people selected all elections, they'll automatically get both.
Automatically.
Okay, great.
Correct.
Excellent. Questions or comments from members of the public? Okay, I don't see anybody.
You know him.
Okay. Tom, did you want to add anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
Other than how lucky we are to have Carol Falvey.
I know. Yes.
That's
All
obvious.
right. So,
Oh boy.
okay, but we're not voting on this evening.
No.
Correct. Okay. But thank you for all the explanation, Carol. And I agree there needs to be communication and education. So we will work on that.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Next on the agenda is to sign the warrant for the 2026 state primary to be held on Tuesday, September 1st, 2026. Do you want to explain what that is, Carol?
Sure. So whenever we have an election, so for instance, for our town election, you would all signed a warrant for both town meeting and for the election. And since for September, we don't have a town meeting in front of that election. It's a call to action, people that we're having an election on this day. It's a state primary. And we, on the warrant, it shows where the dates, the times of voting, the locations. It's required by the state for all select boards or city councils to sign that ahead of that. So once you sign that, it will be delivered to me. I will put it up in our office, and the town will be notified of that election.
Excellent. Yes, thank you. And I know we've been talking a lot of logistics and a lot of dates tonight. So just to clarify, this is the state primary. It has nothing to do with the special town meeting or our local election. But we still go through this process to have the state primary.
Can I add one thing, Liz? Sure. So in the past, the primary, each party had a different colored ballot. And for 20 years, it's been the Democratic ballot has been like a pinky red, and the Republican ballot has been a blue, because apparently we chose the state chose these colors like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And finally, the Secretary of the Commonwealth listened to all the town clerks to say it's so confusing for people because they just associate, red with Republican and blue with Democrat. So could we please change the color of the primary ballots? And that happened this year. So now people will show up and they'll have the color that they associate with it. But for all those people who are trained to think it's the opposite, it will be a switch and it'll be a change. But anyway, it's my little public announcement on that.
Yeah, good point. And you only get to vote for one.
You only get to have one ballot.
Yes.
That is correct. And if you're an unenrolled voter as 2/3 of Hingham is, you can pick either ballot. It does not change how you're registered. You will still be unenrolled after you vote.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. Any questions or comments? Julie?
No questions. Thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments from members of the public?
No hands.
Okay. All right, I'm ready to take a motion.
I make a motion to sign the Hingham warrant for the 2026 state primary election to be held on Tuesday, September 1st, 2026.
Second.
Roll call vote. Julie?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. And I'll just note for the record, that is the first day of school. So there is school. So be patient, arrive early and get there to vote. Excellent. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for all your help. Next on the agenda is public comment. Any questions or comments from members of the public on items not on tonight's agenda?
We have someone named Zoom user. I'm not sure it'd be appropriate to just bring that person in.
Yes, if the person
Julie,
with
they
their
can
hand
call
up,
me.
Zoom user, yes, you can either change your display name so we can identify you, or you are welcome to call the select board office after this meeting. Any other questions or comments?
There are none.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, town administrator and select board reports. Art?
Nothing for this evening. Thank you.
Katie?
Nothing from me.
Okay, Tom?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, I just want one thing. I just wanted to recognize the great work done by the Hingham Police Department last Thursday, dealing with a very volatile situation at the library. They very quickly secured the scene, identified the parties involved, and followed up with a pretty thorough investigation. So my compliments to the chief and his team for great work that was done last Thursday.
Yes, thank you, Bill. Julie?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, and I have nothing to add this evening. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the select board meeting.
Second.
Roll call vote. Julie?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. We are adjourned at 5:59 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
We recognize that taking time to visit, call, or email our town departments to report issues in Hingham doesn't always fit your schedule. Are you looking for an easier way to communicate with the town? Well, now there's an easier way. With the My Hingham mobile app, you can submit service requests or gain information with just a few taps of your phone. To get started, simply download the My Hingham app from the Apple App Store or Google Play, or simply scan our QR code to get the access to the app that's best for your phone. Once you've opened the app, select the Submit a Service Request button. From there, you can choose the type of request you want to submit, whether it's a pothole, a fallen tree, or something else. You'll then be prompted to take a photo of the issue and provide a brief description. You can also use the app to track the status of your issue and receive updates. Using My Hingham puts immediate access to town resources in the palm of your hand, including calendars of meetings and events, agendas for upcoming meetings, building permit filing options, online bill payment options, information about our boards, committees, departments, and services. So why wait? Download the My Hingham app today and report issues and get information on town government with ease.